Well, elements of the right and the left have finally found something they can agree on, at least for the moment, opposing corporate welfare for Amazon. Jeff Bezos' Colossus is getting billions in taxpayer subsidies to open new headquarters in New York and Northern Virginia, and that's not all. As part of the deal for Amazon, the Commonwealth of Virginia is promising to warn the company about any freedom of information requests it receives about Amazon. Karen Lehler is the Republican in the New York Assembly. He sent a letter to the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, questioning the wisdom of this deal, and he joins us tonight. So this is a little bit confusing, considering that New York City has a lot of infrastructure needs, for example. You'd think Amazon, run by the richest guy in the world, would be bringing something to the table, but instead the taxpayers of New York are paying him to come? How does this work?
You know, it's incredible. It's guaranteed to be a boondoggle. What we're seeing here is the most powerful, richest person in the world going to be subsidized by regular people. We know that Amazon, in some cases, destroys other companies that can't compete, destroys jobs. It's one thing if that happens in our free enterprise system, but it's another thing to subsidize that and ask some of the very people whose jobs and businesses are going to be destroyed to subsidize this monster, Amazon.
Well, Amazon is a monopoly, so by definition, I think it's the enemy of the free market. Who cut this deal for the state of New York?
You know, it's fascinating. Governor Cuomo is giving about $1.7 billion with a B in state dollars. DeBlasio is giving another $1 billion in New York City money. And it's interesting because if this was a good deal, Governor Cuomo stood for election just 8 days ago. Why didn't he announce this or get word of this out before the election? If this was a good deal, he certainly would have done that. He knows this is a bad deal. And you know what's interesting? You have liberals like Cuomo and DeBlasio, and what they're doing is they're introducing a bizarro form of supply-side economics. They're saying lower taxes, lower business costs, create jobs, but we're not going to do real supply-side economics where everybody gets a tax cut and everybody gets to compete. We're going to pick one winner and let everybody else sink while one big ship gets to rise.
Well, such a good point. Is it weird to see self-described liberals acting as the servants of the richest man in the world?
Yeah, it is. It is very strange, but I'll give them a little bit of credit. You know, we live in a divided time here in the United States. They have unified the left and the right. The New York Times is against this. The conservative New York Post editorial page is against this. The darling of the left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a New York City liberal, is against it. Upstate conservatives like me are against it. Unions are against it. Business organizations are against it. The only ones who seem to be for it are Amazon, Cuomo, and DeBlasio.
In the state of Virginia, as bad as everything you've just described is, in the state of Virginia, the Democratic state of Virginia, run by liberals, they have agreed to warn Amazon if news organizations file freedom of information requests trying to learn about Amazon. I don't think I've ever seen anything that corrupt. Is there a justification for that?
That reminds me of the Gilded Age, where some of the companies have become more powerful than the United States government. That's scary stuff right there. But I'll give Virginia one thing. They're getting the same number of promised jobs, and they're paying 1/3 the price. We're paying over $1.5 billion for about 25,000 jobs from New York State. Virginia's paying $500 million. They're getting the same number of jobs. That was one of my top questions for Governor Cuomo in my letter today. I'd love to see the answer to that.
So, I mean, how can you get the answer, and what can you do about it? I mean, you're a lawmaker in the state. Cuomo's not king. Can you undo this deal?
You know, we've had a long string of horrible economic development deals in New York State in the 6 years that I've been in the legislature, and it's very difficult to get job creation numbers. You know, they can say, oh, we're going to create this number of jobs, but when you ask them, well, okay, how many have you created? What's the benchmark? Where are we? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years in? You have to file FOIA requests. Newspapers have to file FOIA requests, and it's very difficult to get information out. He's here to cut the ribbon. When this boondoggle fails, he'll be long gone. He'll be out of politics or running for something else, and he won't be here to pick up the pieces. But regular New Yorkers will.
You got to wonder, too, about the location of this deal. So people who visit New York think it's a very rich place because New York City is the financial capital of the world. But upstate New York, parts of it have a lot of poverty, real poverty. Americans suffering, no jobs, high drug abuse. I mean, you're very aware of it.
It's dying. It's dying.
So it's dying. That's exactly right. It's a beautiful place with great people, and it's dying. But Amazon did not choose to help revitalize that part of the state, but they move to the richest part of the state. What does that tell you?
You know, and I don't want to say $25,000 or ever a drop in the bucket, but if it could be a drop in the bucket, New York City, the metropolis of New York City, is a drop in the bucket. If you situated this facility in the middle of central New York or the northern part of the Hudson Valley, you would save an entire region. You would revitalize an entire region and save, you know, what was once a thriving part of our manufacturing base. But to put it here in New York City, here's a point I also would like Governor Cuomo to answer. How do you know they weren't coming anyway? New York City is the media capital. It's the financial capital. It has one of the most educated, dynamic workforces. Wouldn't they be coming here anyway? I mean, they're not going to go to Peoria, right? They're going to come to New York City. So did we just get played? And another thing, the headquarters was supposed to be one second headquarters. Then it got put to two second headquarters, one in Virginia, one in New York. I'd like to know, did Cuomo reduce his bid when the headquarters got split in two?
I
Governor
hope
Cuomo,
you find out. If you find out the
trying.
answer to that, come back, Assemblyman, because we want to know.
I will.
Thank you.
I will. All right.
New York should be proud to have you.